Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 14th, 2023 edition of the Maricopa County Board of Adjustment. Rosalie, would you please take roll call?
Chairman Loper,
Present.
Vice Chairperson,
Present.
Member Ward,
Present.
Member Cardin, Member Clapp,
Present.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Move on to the announcements. Excuse me. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with the open meeting laws of ARS 38-431. Agendas are available within 24 hours of each meeting in the Maricopa County Planning and Development Office. Excuse me again, and are also available on the Planning and Development website 1 week prior to the hearing at www.maricopa.gov/planning. With respect to the hearing process, cases will be considered in the order they appear on the agenda unless otherwise agreed to by the board. For each case, the applicant will be given a set amount of time to present their testimony. Any witness wishing to give testimony on a particular case shall notify the board of such interest. This shall be done by filling out a speaker's card. If you're here in attendance, Rosalie, would you mind holding one up? Okay, they're on the podium, so please fill one out if you're here. Or registering a desire to comment as noted on the published agenda. Also, at the appropriate time for each case, the chair will ask those attending in person and online who wish to speak to a case to raise their hand by clicking on that icon on the webinar screen. Staff will provide the chair with the names of persons who have registered and noted a desire to comment, and those registered participants who have raised their hand. The chair will call on each named participant one at a time. Such testimony shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. However, the actual amount of time allowed for testimony shall be at the discretion of the board chair. The chair will conduct the hybrid in-person and virtual public hearing according to the bylaws and according to the rules established by the chair regarding public comment. Votes will be done by roll call vote only, and the chair will verbally identify the specific board members responsible for all motions and seconds. And with that, we'll move on to the minutes. We have the minutes before us for the October 12th and November 9th hearings. Are there any comments from any board members? All right, seeing none, those are considered approved. Move on to staff announcements.
Mr. Chairman, board members, agenda item number 4, case BA 2023-042, the Wallawaichu Holdings. That case has been withdrawn. There's no action necessary by the board.
Thank you. And also item number 1 is continued.
Yes, agenda item number 1, no actions required. That's being continued to January 18th.
Thank you very much. No action required. Move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, board members, the 2 items are BA 2023-047, known as the Pastillo property in District 3. This is a variance to the east rear setback for just slightly less than 1 acre property in rural 43 zoning at 7342 North Brookview Way in the Clearwater Hills, Paradise Valley area. There's no known opposition. The findings in paragraph 18 are that it meets the statutory test with motion subject to items A and B. And then agenda item 3 is BA 2023-053, known as the Brown property in District 3. These are variances to the east side setback and proposed and existing hillside disturbance outside the lot's principal building envelope, as well as a west street side setback and lot width for a 58,000 plus square foot property in the rural 43 zoning district at 33925 North 7th Avenue in the North Phoenix Desert Hills area. There's no known opposition. The findings in paragraph 17 are that it meets the statutory test with motion subject to items A through D.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Darren or other staff on the consent agenda? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? David, do we have anyone participating online who wishes to speak?
There's no one online.
All right, then we'll move on to entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Chairman Loper, I'll move that we approve case BA 2023-047 and case BA 2023-053.
We have a motion for approval, sorry about that, from Vice Chair Person. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Member Clapp. Rosalie, if you please take roll call.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations. If you're here for either of those cases, you are free to leave if you'd like. We'll move on to the regular agenda. As Darren mentioned, item number 4 has been withdrawn. So move on to item number 5, which is BA 2023-046, the Walker property. Staff.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Case BA 2023-046 is for the Walker property in Supervisor District 2. The site is located at 30623 North 66th Street in the Cave Creek area, is zoned rural 43 and is approximately 1 acre. The request includes the following: a proposed front or north setback of 5 feet from the edge of an existing 25-foot ingress-egress easement, where a total of 65 feet is the minimum permitted per Maricopa County Zoning Ordinance Article 503.4.1. A recorded lot split created an ingress-egress easement of 25 feet along the northern property line, reconfiguring the lot's yards and setbacks. Due to the 25-foot ingress-egress easement recordation, a front yard condition is created where a 40-foot setback would have to be measured at the edge of the easement line, essentially creating a total 65-foot required setback from the northern property line. No construction is proposed at this location. However, the existing residence does not meet the required 65-foot setback. The variance is requested to address the setback violation and ensure zoning clearance for the lot during building permit review of the proposed southern addition. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that there is a peculiar condition facing the property. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that strict application of the zoning ordinance to the applicant's property has caused undue physical hardship that prevents the reasonable development of the property. There are alternatives available to the property, such as re-recording the access easement width to accommodate the existing residence. Thus, a variance is not warranted. The applicant has failed to demonstrate the peculiar condition physical hardship is not self-created in the line of title, and that the previous owner created this condition by recording an access easement for the benefit of a lot split without regard to the effects on required zoning setbacks for the existing residents. The current scenario is due to unregulated land division and poor lot splitting practices. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Variance approval establishes a 30-foot total setback line from the northern property line, or 5 feet from the edge of the 25-foot ingress-egress easement street line of APN 216-67257A. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation, Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions of Dan or anyone else? By any of the board members? I do have one. The easement in question, is it simply for access to the property to the east, or does it continue on through?
Just for the benefit of the property to the east.
Just for approval.
Correct.
Have they responded?
They have, and they do not oppose the request.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, go ahead and open the public hearing. Is the applicant or applicant's representative here in attendance or online? Nobody online?
Chairman, I believe he's online. It's Jared Walker.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to he needs to unmute on his end. There.
I think
Jared,
I
you
did figure
should
it
be
out. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
Go ahead, please provide your name for the record and go forward with your presentation request.
Yes, sir. My name is Jared Walker. I'm presenting on behalf of the Walker property. Sorry, I'm at work, so it might be a little loud at the fire station. But I'd like just to plead my case real quick. I just like to apologize if my application wasn't clear back in August. Had a little bit of a scare with my wife and daughter in an early birth. Little sleep deprived between here and the NICU. So I just wanted to go ahead and just kind of challenge Daniel's assessment, basically. I think based as far as the peculiar condition, I think we basically purchased the home back in June 2023, unaware of the setback issue, and I guess it was in the fine print of the title. We have no intention of building on that side of the property, so I spoke to the neighbor, and he's more than fine with keeping it there, and that's why I attached that letter there. I guess it was a 2-acre lot, then divided into 2 lots, causing our current bedroom to be in violation. The reason we just would like to do this and get the variance based on your response is just because I got a family of 5. I'm trying to remodel. I am aware that we can move the setback lines, but that would basically, talking to my GC and the contractor, he said it's going to cause about $50,000 more for the redesign and the floor plan, because it maximizes our use of our current walls and our roof currently. And if we flip that, it costs us more out of pocket. And just I present that as our unnecessary hardship, because that's most of my salary as a Phoenix firefighter for the year. As far as statutory 3, I just argue that it doesn't affect anyone. I talked to the property. I'm aware that there's one opposition who lives over a mile away. I guess that's all I got. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm nervous and I'm at work, so I'm kind of thrown off. But that's all I have.
Thank you very much. You did fine. Are there any questions of the applicant by any board member? All right, hold tight. We may have more questions. I do have a question, Daniel. The easement, there was a permit conceivably issued or presumably issued for the home. Did the recordation of the easement precede that, or was it after that, or do we know?
It was
Probably
after that.
said.
It was after that. So the house was permitted meeting the correct setback for the north, which would have been the side setback at 30 feet. It currently sits 30 feet.
I believe you said that before. I just wanted to confirm.
For
it.
life, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have it? I don't have a speaker request card. Do we have anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? All right, seeing none. Do we have anyone online, David or Rachel?
Chairman, there's no one else online.
All right. No further questions of the applicant at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for discussion and or a motion. This is in District 2. Member Clapp, go ahead.
I would like to hear what the rest of the board thinks of this case, but I'm inclined to grant this variance for the reasons stated by the owner. Does create a hardship, and there is no opposition by the neighbor that's affected by this. And as he stated, the one letter that was opposed to this came from some distance from the property. So, but I would like to hear what else you might think about this case.
Thank you. Any other board members have any comments? Member Ward.
I would just like to say that if Member Clapp would like to make a motion, I would like to second it.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve.
We have a
I will
motion for approval by Member Clapp and a second by Member Ward. Rosalie, would you please take roll call?
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, we have an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations to the applicant. Move on to the next item on the agenda, BA 2023-048, the Chavez property, represented by Mr. Schlim.
Thank you, Chairman Loper, members of the board. Case BA 2023-048 is a request for 2 variances on the Chavez property. The first request is to establish a lot area of 19,428 square feet, where 43,560 square feet is the minimum required. And the second request is to establish a lot width of 138 feet, where 145 feet is the minimum required. Next slide, please. So the property is located at 3036 South 69th Drive in the Santa Maria Town site near 67th Avenue and Lower Buckeye Road in the Phoenix area. This is a rural 43 property on which the owners are proposing to build a new single-family residence. Next slide, please. So staff notes that the Santa Maria subdivision was platted in 1945. The subject parcel forms the southernmost 140 feet of what had been Lot 36 of the subdivision. In 1968, the easternmost 25 feet of Lot 36 was taken for the dedication of 69th Drive, effectively reducing the lot width to just over 138 feet. When the zoning ordinance was adopted the next year, Lot 36 became a legally non-conforming parcel with regard to lot width. In the years to follow, however, Lot 36 was subject to multiple unregulated minor land divisions, with the subject parcel having been created in 1986. These lot splits negated the legal non-conforming status of the parent parcel and created new parcels that are non-conforming with regard to both lot width and lot area. Staff notes that in 2013, legal non-conforming status was approved by Planning and Development for several parcels in the Santa Maria town site per case LU 2013-0063. Parcels subject to this determination featured substandard lot area and or lot width, but otherwise had not changed in configuration since 1969. The Chavez property was not one of the parcels subject to LNC approval, specifically because it had been created since the zoning ordinance was adopted. Next slide, please. So based upon what the applicant has submitted in the staff analysis, staff finds that the request fails to meet the statutory test for variance approval. Had due diligence been taken in the line of title regarding the requirements of the Rural 43 zoning district prior to the splitting of the original parent parcel, the need for variance could have been avoided altogether. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Item A, variance approval establishes a lot area of 19,428 square feet for APN 104-51014D. And item B, variance approval establishes a lot width of 138 feet for APN 104-51014D. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schlimp. Great presentation. Are there any questions of any by staff or of staff by any of the board members? I do have to say that I'm an Arizona native and I've been in the Phoenix area probably longer than most of staff's have been alive. I did not know there was a Santa Maria area until this case of the valley, but so I appreciate that. All right, no other questions of staff. Move on. Is the applicant or applicant representative here? Go ahead and open the public hearing. Rosalio Mondragon here or online? Oh, come on up if you could, sir. Yes, please. If you could just provide your name for the record and then talk about your reasons for your variance request.
Rosalio Mondragon. The reasons for the variance is that one of my cousins wants to build a home there, and the lot that it was a 5-acre lot, but then the owner by time split the lots differently, and when my cousin bought the lot, we didn't know it would needed to be 1 acre per dwelling home. And so I came with the variance because it's less than 1 acre. We can't build home anything there for my cousin. And we see properties that are smaller than the one we have that have homes. So if we can build a home there, that would be great. But if we can't, it's okay. But yeah, that was for the reason why we took out the variance.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the applicant by any board members? All right, hold tight. We may have more questions for you. Is there anyone in the audience? I don't have any speaker request cards, but anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on this request? Do we have anyone online, Rachel or David?
Chairman, there's no one online that's requested.
All right, seeing that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Turn it over to the board for discussion and or a motion. This is in District 5. I'm just going to put something out there, my own personal feeling. It is incumbent upon the property owner to follow that chain of title and to make sure that you're it conforms with zoning. That's the burden of the property owner. With that said, and we see this almost every board meeting, there's not a county regulation for land splits or lot splits. And so there's not a check and balance. So that's how these situations happen. My personal preference is if this lot's not built on, it sits vacant. It has no utility to anyone or anybody in the county. And I don't like seeing that. So I'm inclined to be in favor, but I'm not making a motion at this point. Turn it over to Member Ward. I see you smiling. Are you anxious to go ahead?
I am. I
Go right
know the
ahead.
Santa Maria neighborhood well, and the lots subdivided out there are unique. So my first question would be, which is the easier way to accommodate, to make a motion here, or if the applicant were to go through the LNC procedure again?
I apologize, Member Ward, if I misstated it. There is not an MLD process. That's what I was saying. If there was one, then perhaps we could catch these early on. Right now, it's just an unregulated lot.
No, LNC.
Oh, the legal non-conforming.
Right.
I'll turn to Aaron. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, Mr. Chairman, Member Ward, board members, the majority of lots in Santa Maria are legal non-conforming or grandfathered. But those that have been subsequently lot split negate any LNC. They've made the lots further substandard. And that's the reason for the for staff's recommendation. If there was an LNC option, that this would have been grandfathered and the applicant wouldn't be here today.
Okay.
So what you want to look at is there anything unique, peculiar compared to everything in the surrounding Santa Maria, or if you want to look at the zoning district in the universe of Rural 43 to see if there's anything peculiar.
Thank you for that. I motion, Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve BA 2023-048, subject to item 23, sections A and B.
We have a motion for approval by Member Ward. Can I get a second and turn over to discussion?
I will second that.
We have a second by Member Person. Did you have a question or comment?
I was just going to state that I do think for the width variance, there is a peculiar condition in my mind with the road dedication. So I think that they would have met the 145 without that. But I will second Member Ward's motion.
We have a motion and a second.
I just
Any further?
have a question.
Yes, go right ahead.
I don't want to stop the vote here, but I just had a question about this legal non-conforming. If the owner had moved into the house that was on the property, there would have been no issue, correct? They could have lived there with the house that was presently built.
Member Clapp, I do believe that residence was built in 1975, and as of the year 2000, it did become, the residence itself had become legal non-conforming. I believe it was destroyed by fire sometime in the past few years, and that's why the property owner is proposing to build a new residence on site. And one thing, I don't remember if I mentioned this in my staff report, but the applicant actually had come in for a legal non-conforming application earlier this year. However, it was denied for the reasons cited in the staff report regarding the fact that it had been split since the zoning ordinance was adopted.
Okay, you answered my question about what happened to the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items for discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take roll call. Rosalie, please.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chair Person,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, we have an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Move on to the next item, BA 2023-050, the Otero property. Martin?
Good morning, members of the board. This is case BA 2023-050 Otero property, located a quarter-mile northeast of the northeast corner of 156th Street and Ocotillo Road in the Gilbert area. Next slide, please. The request is to reduce the required front southwest yard from 40 feet to 30 feet to accommodate a new home. The applicant proposed to construct a new 6,845 square foot single-family residence and one 651 square foot detached accessory garage. The next slide, please. The new home will contain a 3-car garage and 5 bedrooms built on 3 different levels. The southern portion of the home will have an attached garage that will be 30 feet away from the west parcel line, all inside the lot's required front yard. Next slide, please. Based on what the applicant has submitted and staff analysis in this report, staff offers the following findings. Number 1, the applicant has failed to demonstrate that there's a peculiar condition facing the property. The lot has a principal building envelope that can accommodate the proposed home if properly situated on the lot. Number 2, the applicant has failed to demonstrate that the strict application of the MCZO to the applicant's property has caused the undue physical hardship that presents reasonable accommodation development on the property. There are alternatives available on the property, such as moving the proposed home's footprint 28 feet northward, or just a complete redesign of the garage that is closest to that southwest property line. Thus, variance request would be not warranted. Next slide, please. So, however, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant relief sought. In such an event, staff would offer the following to be memorialized: the variance approval. So variance approval would establish a 30-foot front yard setback line parallel to the southwest lot line for the lot. This concludes staff's presentation, and thank you, members of the board.
Thank you, Martin. Very thorough presentation. Are there any questions of staff? Member Person.
I think we were having some technical difficulties during your presentation, so
Okay.
the slides weren't working.
Oh, they weren't up.
But
I didn't even notice.
On this one, yeah, I know
Yes.
you were just cruising. On this one,
Yes,
if you can
right,
see it.
correct.
So I think up is north now.
That's
and
correct.
then
No,
here
that's-
you're talking about the setback.
that's
Where
correct,
it- And
correct.
is the accessory one, this one up here?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
One of those peculiar shaped lots.
It is very peculiar, yes.
Oh, I know he does. Are there any other questions of staff at this time by any other board members? Fern, we can't see you right now due to some technical difficulties, but if there is something, please just turn on your microphone and yell into it.
Nothing from me right now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All right. Is the applicant or applicant's representative in attendance? No, I'm not seeing anyone in person. Do we have anyone online? We do. Okay. If
Yeah,
the person
sorry.
online,
They need to unmute on their end, and then they should be able to.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes, we are in attendance. Allison and Scott Otero.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can everybody hear us okay?
we can't see you. I don't know. Did they have a presentation?
We did not have a presentation.
Okay.
Wanted to speak on behalf of our case today.
Yep. Go right ahead.
So as Martin had mentioned, thank you very much for considering our case, by the way. As Martin had mentioned, the possibility of moving the residence 28 feet to the north, I just wanted to speak on that specific topic there. The northern part of our property is intended to be our backyard, considering the shape of the lot. The back side of the house is pretty shallow in terms of yard space, so we were hoping to pull the house as far south as comfortable to accommodate a larger yard on the northern part of the lot. So we would prefer not to move the house 28 feet and lose that square footage for the yard. And then in response to the movement of the garage, again, just with the depth of the lot, we would prefer not to do that because we're trying to allot for some area for potential livestock going into the back of the home. And if we were to move the garage towards the east, losing that 10 feet, that would encroach on their space. I'd also like to just point out that the property that is on the southwestern corner where the variance is being applied does not have a residence right neighboring us. So our variance would not encroach on their physical home. They have a pasture there instead. So we would obviously appreciate the variance approval. And if you have any questions for us, we're both in attendance here today virtually.
Thank you. We do have questions from the board members. Member Person.
Thank you for your presentation. My question was related to the garage, and I know you said you would prefer not to shift it to the east, but have you explored turning it perpendicular so the access would kind of curve and come from the south? I feel like if you did that, you may be able to fit it without having to have a variance.
So the access to the garage is currently to the south. Are you suggesting making the house longer to where you would access the garage from the west?
Okay, yes, I misunderstood which direction the front of the garage was.
Oh, okay, right. So the access to the garage is actually facing south right now. We're trying to keep the house as linear as we can, and if we were to change the direction of the garage, you can see the garage doors, which is fine, just not preferred, but also just it helps keep the side yards a little larger for the accommodations that we're trying to make happen with the livestock. So on the southern end of the property, we'd like to have some stables there and then accommodate the room for the livestock behind the house. So if we were to change the positioning of the garage, it would just encroach on the southern end of the property.
Okay, thanks for explaining.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So to confirm, as I'm looking at the garage, as proposed, it's accessed from the north. Are the doors? Yeah.
So the doors
Or
are
north, I'm sorry, the north, yeah. North is, the opposite way, from the south. So if you turned it, not trying to design, it seems like it would have easier access, but I'll take their word. Are there any other questions of board members of the applicant? Member Ward?
Sorry, nothing from me.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and hang tight. We may have more questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Do we have anyone else online? Rachel or
There's
David?
no one else. There's no
Nope,
one else
no one
online, Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing if there's no further questions of the applicant. This is in District 1. Is there anyone who wants to take a stab at a motion and or discuss this further? Member Person?
I don't like to see just random parcels undeveloped, but I do feel like there are several options here. Like I would feel better about it if the applicant were able to explore some of those options to try to work within the setbacks. I fully respect that they have different uses for the property, but they do have some options that may enable them to meet the requirements.
Thank you. A question for the applicant. Have you talked with staff about gerrymandering this somewhat, reconfiguring it to try to avoid the need for a variance or to lessen it? Question for the applicant?
Okay, unmuted. Sorry, thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for your question. We have, I mean, in an ideal world, this is the preferred layout for the property. We have considered other options, but again, this is just the preferred and
yeah, and I think, so sorry, this is Scott. I just wanted to chime in. I think as we've looked at alternative options in terms of creating, like staying within the setbacks, we end up creating a very, very wide home. If you look at our lot, it's very unique in its shape already. And so we've created what already is an extremely wide home compared to other homes that are in this area. And so if we are to modify that garage, which it was a good recommendation provided earlier, something that we've already assessed, if we were to move that garage so that the doors are west facing, again, it just adds significantly to the width of the home. And so we're trying to avoid that at all costs. And then the other recommendation that we have explored was given to us of moving the home 28 feet north. If we were to do that, it kind of makes the home a little bit off center. And we are in a cul-de-sac where we are the home at the very end of that cul-de-sac. So as you're driving down the road, you would be looking at a home that is significantly off center. So it would put us back to the redesign phase. And obviously that's a tough thing to deal with at the moment, because we've already spent close to 6 months creating what you're seeing here today. So essentially those are the main reasons why we are asking for the variance. And we definitely have looked at this in a lot of different ways to try to stay within the current setbacks.
Thank you. Go ahead, Member Person.
I have a question for Mr. Martell.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this plan on the screen, and it looks like we've got the 40-foot setback in the back, 30 feet on the two sides, and then 40 that is being proposed to be 30 on the one
30.
angled section.
Correct.
But then the other angled section says 20 feet.
That's actually the street side yard setback.
Okay, so it's allowing
And-
that one to be called
Correct.
the street side. Okay,
This is due to the angle of that property line. It's less than 135 degrees.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Darren.
just a thought and a question. You may want to ask the applicant if he talked about two options, but another option that wasn't discussed is the garage addition on the south end of the home. Could that be pushed eastward so that the southwest corner of the garage addition meets the 40-foot setback line? And it would, instead of being aligned with the plane of the east end of the house, it would be aligned with the plane of the west end of the house portion closest to the garage.
Great question. We have looked at that, and certainly it's a good option. The one caveat to that has been the lot that is located on the southeastern portion of our property, basically splitting us in the middle. That has just sold, and they are building their home there closer to our end of our property line. So because that's happening, we would prefer being 10 feet away from that property line, because technically the backyard there on the east side is shallow as is. And with that house going up there, we would like to have as much distance from an actual building as possible. Again, just considering that, as you see on this aerial, lot 4 is just an open field right now. It's just used for a horse pasture. So we feel that being further away from an actual resident's home is better than being closer to it at this point.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Darren? Turn this back to the board. I like that you've explored options. I don't know if there are other ones available to you or not. It's always my preference personally that the applicant work with staff on as many options as possible. This is not a board that frankly routinely denies variances. We do so when we feel like there's no other option really for it. And so it sounds like you've explored them. I don't know where this is going. It's not my district, but I just throw that out there that in the face of potential denial, that exploring the options for another 30 days or month, give or take, may be in your best interest. But I'm going to throw it back to the board for discussion and or motion. And we now have 2 Fern wards in there. She's so nice, it's cloned her.
And they look different.
Yeah, one's frozen in time, and there's still no bumper sticker. Anyway, oh, there we go. This is in District 1. I don't know if somebody wants to take a stab at a motion or. Are you 1 or 2? 3? You're 2.
Member Ward is muted.
Go ahead, Member Ward. You're muted.
Okay, sorry about that.
There you go.
Oh boy. Okay, is this gonna work? No. Just a minute. Just a minute. I apologize. I move that we deny the variance approval, and I will continue working with my computer.
Sorry. We have a motion for denial by Member Ward. Is there a second?
I will second.
We have a second by Member Person. Rosalie, would you please take a roll call?
Member Clapp,
No.
Member Ward,
Is this a yes to deny?
thank you. Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper,
No.
Chairman, the motion fails by a vote of 2 to 2.
Yes, absolutely.
In light of the fact that the representative from District 1 is not here, and it has been suggested there might be some alternatives to the design, I make a motion that we continue this case for another 30 days so that we can reconsider the whatever input we can get the next time we discuss it.
Darren, what date is that? I believe it's January 18th. All right. So if you wouldn't mind modifying to the date.
That we continue this case until January 18th,
2024.
2024.
And we have a motion for a continuance to the next month's agenda. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second by Member Ward. Rosalie, if you please take roll call.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper,
Yes.
Chairman, that's a continuance by a vote of 4 to 0.
And to the applicant, real quick, it's a difficult time of the year with the holidays to get together, but do your best if you can, and we will see you in about a month. Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
One other comment or idea I had, and I don't know if this is correct, but staff can tell me, is if that garage were to not be connected to the house, and would it be considered an accessory structure that therefore wouldn't be subject to that setback?
That's correct.
That's just another.
No, correction, it would be subject to that front setback, but
Same 40-foot one?
correct.
Okay.
But it could be closer to the east or the south, which they've indicated concern with.
Okay, thank you.
Best of luck with that. We'll move on to the next item, BA 2023-051, the Burdick property. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Case BA 2023051 is for the Burdick property in Supervisor District 4. The site is located at 12029 North Cherry Hills Drive in the Sun City area, is zoned R16, and is approximately 7,953 square feet. The request includes the following: a proposed side south setback of 3 feet 2 inches from the southern property line, where 5 feet is the minimum permitted per Maricopa County Zoning Ordinance Article 606.4.2. The residence was built meeting the required setbacks per the subsequent rezoning and recordation of the subdivision plat for Sun City 1. Further drainage easements of 5 feet have been recorded along most lot lines for nearly all lots platted in Sun City and are enforced through the building permit review process. The setbacks function as both drainage ways and separation distance between habitable buildings and property lines. Since the addition was unpermitted, there was no way to notify the owner that the drainage easement would be encroached and would not meet the required setbacks. Even with the variance approval, planning and development engineering would not grant the drainage clearance required, as the unpermitted addition remains within the 5-foot drainage easement. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that there is a peculiar condition facing the property. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that the strict application of the zoning ordinance to the applicant's property has caused an undue physical hardship that prevents the reasonable development of the property. A variance is not warranted. The applicant has failed to demonstrate a peculiar condition, physical hardship that is not self-created in the line of title. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that the general intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance will be preserved with this variance. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Variance approval establishes a 3-foot setback line from the southern lot line of APN 200890019. Happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there any questions of, go ahead, member Person?
Hi there. So you mentioned the drainage easement and that you couldn't notify the property owner because the work was unpermitted, but who's the grantee of that drainage easement? And if we were to approve this variance, I know that's out of our purview, but like who else is a stakeholder there?
It would be not flood control, is it? Correct.
It's it would be the draining, the engineering division manager, and then the planning director.
Easement
I
to
think,
Maricopa County, not to a private property owner.
and I'm sorry if I didn't hear the question, but yes, the easement's to the benefit of the public, just the county.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions of staff by any board members? I do. So, and maybe this is a question for Wayne. So it's a drainage easement. It's an encumbrance on the property, as member Person mentioned. What are the ramifications for a structure in an easement? If it needed to be maintained, it would be at the property owner's risk of it being there. The flood control district or the public, if you will, could come through and remove it, correct? Or
that it prevents the beneficial owners of the easement rights from using it. They have the right to knock it down with no ramifications to them at all. But you have a more practical problem here, and it's not the flood control district, it's the county. The practical problem is, even if you grant them the variance, they can't get a building permit because drainage won't sign off on it, because obviously it encroaches upon the easement.
is there a method through the flood control district for a variance or a use permit or anything like that? Or so we're just, all we can look at is the development standard.
Correct, but there are also drainage regulations. And according to staff report, engineering division, which enforces the drainage regulations, has determined that it will not grant drainage clearance for what's there because of the presence of the easement.
Understood, but is there any remedy for them to go back and talk to flood control or to the drainage folks or?
Right. Yes, Mr. Chairman, they could conduct an engineered study to see about redelineating the drainage easement, which may require drainage improvements elsewhere.
Like on the other side of the lot or there could
or
be options.
off-site in order to accommodate the drainage that utilizes the flows that utilize that easement. The
Right.
concern is that flows are impeded and the integrity of the easement is destroyed by the construction of the easement.
But to answer your question, there's no administrative variance type situation. It's strictly a matter of engineering and the drainage. And this easement is not, as I understand it, applicable only to the property. It's to the whole row of properties. So it involves flows involving much more than just their property.
Understood. All right.
All of which would have been caught had they applied for the permit.
Right. All right. Thank you. Any other questions of staff by any board members at this point? All right, I'm going to head open the public hearing. Is the applicant or applicant's representative, if you could come up to the podium, please, and give us your name and then talk to us about your request for the variance.
Yes, sir. My name is Scott Burdick. And the reason for my request, first of all, the drainage was approved already because it was approved under I can go back and get the date of it, but it was approved when I redid that part of the driveway because there was an RV parked on there prior to me buying it and it was all broke up. So I removed it and replaced it, and I do have an approval for that from the county. Plus the drainage from this building, there's going to be an eave trough on it, which carries it to the backyard, which is where it naturally drains anyhow.
The question for staff real quick, the drainage easement, is it run the length of the lot all along that side yard?
For all lots, yes. All lots, yes.
It does?
Mhm.
So it probably captures some of the half-street drainage as well.
Yeah, from what
Okay.
they told me is the front half of the lot has to drain toward the street and the back half has to drain toward the golf course. And that's the way I poured the concrete, so that's the way it drains.
It looks like you have vertical curb along a portion of your front. Do you know?
Yeah, because actually the normal flow is it comes down the street and around the corner there.
Yeah, you can kind of tell just even from the serial way things would flow, but I'm not a drainage guy. So the purpose for the,
But Mr. Chairman, and I'm
Go ahead.
sorry for interrupting, but just a reminder that the technicalities of the drainage and the engineering will be worked, those will, regardless of what happens here with the variance, those are going to be part of the review of a building permit. And what is there may have to be modified based on those reviews. But that is a separate issue from, I don't want you to get
in the weeds.
it's your job, but I'm just going to remind you that what you're looking at is there a peculiar condition for that setback of the building? And even though you may be considering engineering, those resolutions are external to everyone sitting here today.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Back to the applicant. Talk to us about the structure that caused the need for the variance, what that's needed for, why you didn't get a permit. And first off, thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
It is appreciated and acknowledged.
It was my honor and privilege. The reason that I started this was so that my wife's car could get in the garage, because right now our golf cart takes the garage. There is one outlet on the outside of the garage that I can plug the charger into, so there is no additional electrical or water to this building. I'm just using that outlet to charge the batteries on my golf cart. The other half, the back half, was going to be used for my treadmill and for my stationary bike for my physical and occupational therapy use. And I do have at the moment, I do have a ramp at the front, but it's aluminum movable. And I was going to move it around to the door that's off, will be undercover there, so you're not getting any frost on it or anything.
Not getting any, Did you say frost?
Frost, we do get frost.
That's true. It's not often, but it happens. Is there to be a door on this?
There's gonna be 2 overhead doors, sir. One in the
Okay.
front, and one in the back. And I am replacing the one on my garage now, so they all match.
And you
I have a lot of pride in my property.
clearly, that's very much appreciated. And you do understand that whatever action, if the board takes an action to approve a variance, that's just for the setback as if the building didn't exist. You still have to go through a permit review that includes those drainage issues that are outside of our purview.
Not a problem.
And that may not be approved. You may, regardless of our action, you may still have to remove the structure.
It's, the drainage has already been approved. I just have to give them a copy of it.
Okay, but I just want you to be clear on
Yes,
that,
sir.
because I don't want you to come away from this if it were.
I'm not gonna
approved.
go home and start finishing it.
Okay, all right. Anything else for us at this point?
No, sir.
All right, hang tight. We may have more questions of you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
I'm not aware of anyone online.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for discussion. This is in District 4, which is my district, but I'm curious the feelings and thoughts of the other board members. Member Person.
I think 5 feet is already pretty small, so it's hard to think that 3 feet works, but you know, if the neighbors around there don't have a problem with it, I don't personally have a problem with it. I do note that the Sun City Board, whichever one this is, also denied it. So, you know, that process would have to be completed as well.
Might I add, they denied it because they didn't ask any questions. I was there. They didn't ask.
And I can't speak for them, but
No.
I imagine they have some design review and or CC&R control. So
I made the mistake of telling them that I was the president of another board before I came to Phoenix. And there's 3 questions I always asked. First, appearance from the front, from the road appearance. All my neighbors are for it. Second, is it a safety issue? Because I'm big on safety. It's not a safety issue. And third was the drainage problem, which there isn't a problem because they already approved it. I do have the holes in the wall that are required. I do have the slant toward the street and the slant toward the backyard. So it's just as they requested me to do. And I am going to add an eave trough to the side of it and run it to my roses that are on the side of the garage.
Thank you. This is a quandary. I'm appreciative, as Member Person said, that the neighbors don't seem to have an issue with it. But you do have your work cut out for you. Should this get approved, you need to get a permit, you need to work with drainage, the public.
It's been going on for 7 years.
Sun City
Sun City.
folks there. There is a question. Go ahead, Member Clapp. Save me here.
I don't know if you answered the question, but why did you not get a building permit for this?
Do you really want me to answer that?
I do, because you
They were
also
sleeping.
you had several other things that happened on your property that were unpermitted before this one. So
I have
according to
permit.
my report, there's several unpermitted.
I think
additions
that's,
that
they're
been
trying to pay back is what they're worried about. But no, there's no safety issues. There's no reason for them to turn it down. We have 17 of the exact same thing that I'm doing just on our street. And they all grandfathered them in.
So you don't see a reason why you needed a permit.
I'm sorry?
You didn't see a need for a permit. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I said. They were sleeping. I started this the 30th of May this year. And they were asleep until September. That was the first meeting that they could make time to get one of their residents in for a meeting. 5 months later. That's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, ma'am?
If I could ask, who's they?
Sun City?
The board, oh, you're talking about the Sun City Board.
Yes, sir.
But weren't you aware that you might need a electric permit or a building permit or?
I was made aware that I would need one if I added electricity to it. I'm not adding electricity to it. And I am calling for a final inspection once it's done by the county.
I'm really at a loss here.
I'm done. I put a lot of time into this. That's why there's no water, no electrical.
Clearly, and we're not debating the quality of the work you've done or what that you're likely to do. It's I may surprise
And
myself.
another thing, when I went to Sun City, they said, you need a building permit first. When I called the county said, you need to go and get a variance from them first. And so I've been running in circles. And after we both had a good laugh, we decided to go ahead and go this route.
Right.
I'm trying to just move forward any way I can.
Definitely understood. And our job is not to be an impediment.
Oh, no.
We'd like you to go forward. But there are regulations that I'm having a tough time trying to move forward with. And I recognize that we are not the only process. But you do understand that should this get approved, you still need county approvals. You understand that, right? A permit, and you're gonna have to work.
I've already applied for that.
It's already applied for that. You have to work through that. That's the note that, thank you for correcting me. And you're gonna have to work with the Sun City Board.
Yeah, as far as I
That's
know, the
private
permit's
issue.
already been approved.
Okay.
I'm not really sure because I applied for it, I paid for it. All I have is a receipt. So I don't know. So I don't know.
Okay. You're gonna need to talk to staff about the permit because they're not showing a record of it. And I understand it can get confusing. The county regulates the building and the
Yeah.
drainage and the roads in the area. The Sun City Board is more on the design end of it, but they do have their own regulations that
Yeah.
I won't even pretend to know. But you need approvals of both of those. Anybody want to take a stab at,
And that's another thing. I could take it out of Sun City's hands for easy just by using my disability, but I don't want to do that. There's no reason to have to go that route. Then it turns into a urinating contest, and that's not what it's all about.
no, definitely not. All right, I'll bite. BA 2023-051, the Burdick property. I am going to move for approval of the variance as presented. Could you read back the stipulations to me, Mr. Johnson?
Variance approval establishes a 3-foot setback line from the southern lot line of APN 2008919.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. We don't add other things anymore, nothing. So, And we can't add anything like must secure building permit or. I agree, but I'm trying to impress upon the applicant that there, needs to do.
Mr. Chairman, no, we've actually, council will probably remind you that we've actually been told by the court not to add the conditions. However, for the record, a construction permit for the building addition is required through the Planning Development Department. Separate from that, any CC&Rs, deed restrictions, things that are covered by the HOA can be separately enforced by the HOA. If a variance is approved, there's no guarantee of a building permit because of technical requirements of the building code and the drainage code. But even if a variance is approved and a building permit is approved, the HOA can still enforce their CC&Rs and design review separately.
And do you understand it, Mr. Burdick?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Okay, then my motion is for approval. Is there a second?
I will second your motion.
We have a second by member Person. Rosalie, if you'd please take the roll call.
Member Clapp,
No.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes,
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 3-1.
thank you. Best
Thank
of
you.
luck to you. Move on to the next item on the agenda, BA 2023-054. And Mr. Schlim.
Thank you, Chairman Loper, members of the board. Case BA 2023-054 is a request for 3 variances on the 80 property to establish a front yard setback of 15 feet where at least 40 feet is required, to establish a lot area of 25,757 square feet where at least 43,560 square feet is required, and to establish a lot width of 143 feet where at least 145 feet is required. Next slide, please. Oh, we're already there. Cool. The property is located at 14034 North 72nd Avenue near 75th Avenue and Thunderbird Road in the Peoria area. This is a rural 43 property on which the owners propose a new single-family residence. An existing residence and a detached accessory structure, both legally non-conforming, would be removed to make way for the new residence. The property is within a lot split area, and like many of the surrounding parcels, these lot splits have left the property with substandard area and width. Next slide, please. So there are large trees in the center and toward the northeast corner of the lot. To preserve one of these trees, the owner requests to reduce the front yard setback on the south of the parcel. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So the conditions created by the substandard lot area and lot width were avoidable, having been created in the line of title by previous owners of the property and its parent parcels through a series of lot splits, the most recent of which occurred in 2001. As for the tree, the site plan suggests that the planned residence could be feasibly relocated toward the northwest corner of the lot's building area. Such would negate the need for variance to the front yard setback and still allow the residents to narrowly avoid the mesquite tree that the owner wishes to preserve. Staff does note that the owner submitted 5 letters of support from neighboring property owners. However, these letters do not directly address the variance request or the statutory test for variance approval. Based upon what the applicant has submitted in the staff analysis, staff finds that the request fails to meet the statutory test for variance approval. Had due diligence been taken in the line of title regarding the requirements of the Rural 43 zoning district prior to the splitting of the original parent parcel, the need for variance could have been avoided altogether. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in a motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Item A, variance approval establishes a 15-foot south setback line for APN 200-68017J. Item B, variance approval establishes a lot area of 25,757 square feet for APN 200-68017J. And item C, variance approval establishes a lot width of 143 feet for APN 200-68017J. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Great presentation. Are there any questions of Mr. Schlim by any of the board members? I have one. So I'm looking at the aerial. We have the existing structures. Can you go back to the site plan? And so the hashed areas are the the buildings that exist today?
Chairman Loper, that is correct. The hash areas are the existing single-family residence, which I believe was built in 1943, and the other one to the south being a detached accessory structure. The owner is proposing to remove both of those to make way for the new residence.
New one. And the setbacks that are in question, the lot width is a different issue, but the south to the front, the encroachment is less than what was grandfathered in on the existing building. And then the lot width and square footage. Am I looking at that correct? So the south is the front.
Yes, the issue with the setbacks is a bit of a complicated one, I believe, because the property is addressed off of 72nd Avenue, which runs to on the east side of the property. However, based on the aerials, that easement does swing around, fronting the south property line. And so the property is essentially a corner lot. And because the south lot line is the shorter of the two relative to the east lot line, we are considering the south lot line to be the front yard.
Thank you. Answered my second question was, did that easement kind of follow that, the aerial? So thank you. No further questions by me. Anybody else? Member Person?
I'm blaming Fern for whatever's happening right now. But my question is, if the 72nd Avenue were considered the front yard, would the setback still be, or I mean, would the variance still be required based on this current proposed plan?
If the east were to be considered the front, that would require a 40-foot setback from the east property line, in which case a variance would be required, albeit from the east lot line. Currently, if the east is, we're considering the east lot line to be street side, which is a setback of 20 feet. The house just meets that as proposed. However, if the east were to be considered the front, that would be a 40-foot setback from the east, and they would need variance from the east.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
One other question.
Go right ahead.
The yellow area on the screen, that's is that intended to be the 6 acres? It looks like more, or is that the original 6 acres or whatever?
So member Person, the yellow area is the rural 43 zoning district within the county. I should note that many of the surrounding areas have been annexed in the city of Peoria. 72nd Avenue is not shown in yellow because it's not subject to rural 43 zoning. However, currently 72nd Avenue is, I believe, a McDOT maintained easement, so it's not within Peoria jurisdiction.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. I'm going to head open the public hearing. Is the applicant or property owner here in attendance? If you could come on up and provide your name for the record and then talk to us about your request for the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. My name is Michael Adey. So reason for the variance, I'm the 3rd generation owner of this property. My grandfather back in the late 30s, early 40s, homesteaded multiple acres in this area, and this is what's left. This has been Grandma and Grandpa's house since I was a kid, and I'm 42 years old now, and since I was little, I always dreamed of living there someday. And my father was going to build here, but he got diagnosed with Parkinson's and decided not to go on that journey. So basically handed it to me before he passed away in January of 2020. And I was hoping to build this so he could see it before he passed away. So that was a secondary dream to see me raise my family there. So I'm the only breadwinner of a family of 7. I have 5 kids. Some of them are still little, who hope, God willing, will be able to grow up here. I want my home situated like this for a few reasons. To kind of stay with the orientation and the placement of the existing structures. So to the south, it's a single wide gravel road on North 72nd Avenue, and Cemetery Road along the South PL is also a single wide gravel road. Respectfully, I'd like to, from my knowledge, correct Nick. In 72nd Avenue and the other gravel road along the south end is a private road, not maintained by McDOT. Neither one of them along my property line is. Across the south road on the South PL is a private cemetery. I don't want my front door facing that. As far as all my letters of support from the 5 surrounding neighbors, yeah, it doesn't specifically say for this variance, but I sat down with them with my plot plan, with my site plan that you're looking at right now, and that's what they gave approval for. There's dimensions, everything, and they said it's about time that I start. They're just as excited as me to develop this and improve this area. And then of course, I'm going to pass this down to one of my sons someday. This is going to be my forever home. I sold my house in Glendale of 13 years to make this happen. I'm renting. I'm trying to get this started as soon as possible. I'm also a native of Phoenix, born at Baptist Hospital, 19th Avenue and Bethany Home. I did look into annexing into Peoria. It's not realistic in this situation. The neighbors to the east, where it shows City of Peoria across the gravel road, I looked into that. I had long conversations with the City of Peoria, and they said they do not like to pumpkin tooth annex. They don't want to just do my lot. So in order to annex me, they want the lot to the north of me, and also to improve 72nd Avenue single wide gravel road into a 2-lane paved road. Surrounding neighbors they're not gonna go for that. Plus, myself and my neighbor to the north would have to give up 10 to 15 feet of our property to make that 2-lane road. That's unrealistic to ask, especially that I'm barely over a half an acre as it is. South PL setback, again, I have greater distance than what's currently there that I'm gonna demolish. I want that garage wall and that side of the house to not have a view of cemetery for my kids' bedrooms. I was fine with it when I was a kid, but I was used to it. I thought it was cool. So, and that cemetery is owned by the Weed family, who we call that Weedville. They're the founding family of that area. And my grandfather, again, from what I know, donated that piece of land to the Weed family so they could build that private cemetery. And then also a reason for that south setback of being only 15 feet when the 40 is required. That tree you see up at the north end of the property is a huge, gigantic mesquite tree that's really special to our family. Multiple weddings have taken place there, birthday parties, all kinds of celebrations. And if proposed, that's as close as I want to get that north exterior wall of the new house to the root system of that tree. You know, once you start messing with roots, you'll kill trees. And so that's the reasoning, both of the reasons for the setbacks, for the one setback on the south end. I don't know if the lot width of 2 feet being out of compliance is need to spend too much time on that. And I think that's pretty much all I got. Again, all the neighbors, except of course, the ones in the cemetery won't answer me or write a letter for me. So, yep, that's all I think I have. I have one thing highlighted here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant, any board member? None at this time. Thanks. I'm familiar with the area and I knew the Weedville. I was wondering if it was your family cemetery, but no, it's not. But my wife grew up next to a cemetery and she talks very fondly of that being an extension of her yard because it was grass. So it's too bad kids these days don't see things that same way.
Yeah, my older ones do, but
Yeah.
the younger ones still
But
haven't
definitely
warmed up to it yet.
Definitely understood. Thank you. Hang tight. We may have more questions of you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, I have no speaker request cards. Is there anyone online?
We're not aware of anyone online.
Thank you. Hold tight. I am going to go ahead and close the public hearing and turn this over to the board. Are there any items for discussion? This is in District 4. Certainly can make a motion if no one else has a desire to. I don't see anybody else chomping at the bit. So a couple of things. One is a question for staff. So, and forgive me, the ordinances run together across the state, but isn't there an allowance for a 10% staff? I see Wayne shaking his head. All right, never mind. So for the lot width, I thought maybe that could have been administratively. Okay. All right. Didn't there used to be something in the zoning ordinance for the county for 10%? Never, ever?
It's a determination of a site plan minor amendment versus major amendment.
Okay, okay. Peoria would have given you that, just so you know. But I understand the right-of-way requirements in the roadway. I'm just joking. In the case of BA 2023-054, the 80 property, I move for approval of the variances as presented, subject to the stipulation outlined in the staff report. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by member Clapp. Rosalie, if you please take roll call.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes, congratulations. And I like that you're keeping it in the family. It's a personal note, but I do like that.
Thank you.
For just a second, sorry.
Does anyone else need a quick break for, all right, we're going to take a 5-minute break for facilities management. Well, and I kind of knew, and I see him doing that. Which one? He's really 50 people above him tell him what to do. Yeah. And so that was surprising. And it's not lot drainage. No. It's the roadway. Like it's not the roadway, it's the whole subdivision. You can see the bird on the roadway. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. The poor guy probably got different. He's giving him something. Well, I figured that. Yeah, so you have to.
Very, very passionate. Well, it goes to the people and we'll stick around. It's a one-off. Yeah, maybe not, but it gives them something to really put aside. You know, it made it. He already said. No, he said I'm not. Did he just make? No. He said it's not the village. He said it's not like I'm the whole thing. That's what he said. Right. Well, hey. Oh, yeah. That's probably for the. Sorry. Oh, I thought you were wearing blue. Almost.
Everybody ready to go ahead and continue? We'll call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda, BA 2023-055, the Sullivan property in District 5. And this one is being presented by Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Case BA 2023-055 is for the Sullivan property in Supervisor District 5. The site is located at 26531 South 317th Avenue in the Buckeye area. Is zoned RU43 and is approximately 1 acre. The request includes the following: a proposed side setback of 20 feet from the southern lot line, where 30 feet is the minimum permitted per the zoning ordinance. The applicant is requesting a 10-foot reduction of the required side south setback in order to increase additional buildable area, where 30 foot is the minimum setback required. Site design and development will be dependent on the results of this request. The lot is unremarkable other than that its wider lot width, largely remaining vacant as with all lots in the recorded subdivision. Reserved areas are dedicated for both a well and septic systems. 2 other lots in the subdivision have been able to develop single-family residences meeting the required setbacks. Based upon what the applicant has submitted and the staff analysis in this report, staff offers the following findings. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that there is a peculiar condition facing the property. The lot is unremarkable in that it is similar to other lots surrounding Spring Mountain Ski Lake. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that the strict application of the zoning ordinance to the applicant's property has caused undue physical hardship that prevents unreasonable development of the property. Since there is no site design proposed at this time, Development simply must comply with zoning district requirements. There has been no coherent argument that justifies the setback reduction, thus variance is not warranted, and the applicant has failed to demonstrate that the general intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance would be preserved with the variance. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for the determination with findings and conclusion in the motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Variance approval establishes a 20-foot south setback line for APN 401-62033. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Very thorough. Are there any questions of Mr. Johnson or other staff by any of the board members? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is the applicant or applicant representative here in attendance? Or are they online? They're online. If you could go ahead and unmute them and please provide your name and then talk to us about your variance request, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mike Breffling. I will be the civil engineer on this site, and I provided the variance application. And so if actually the previous slide might be better if you don't mind. I don't have a formal presentation, but I can talk to some of the technical hardships. As you see, the 317th Avenue kind of clips through the site, and on the east side, it's because of the irregular shape, it's a shorter east property line than all of the other developments. So when you put in the standard RU 43 setbacks, it makes a very small buildable envelope, and it actually renders a septic design almost impossible. And all of these lots require septic systems. So with the septic setback and clearance requirements that will come along with the standard RU 43 setbacks, that was kind of a huge constraint on the owner and the owner's architectural design of the house. And a keynote to the south, the property to the south, adjoining adjacent property to the south, as per the recorded plat, is an open space tract, and the HOA and CCNRs also reinforce that this open space tract will not be developed. There won't be structures. So this south setback reduction request won't necessarily affect that open space tract. The HOA and CCNRs allow for 20-foot setbacks, so it meets the HOA and CCR requirements, but the RU 43 is greater than that. So really, in summary, this south setback reduction is to greatly increase the design options for the owner, as well as incorporate a septic design, which will be required. I think that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? I have one, and maybe it's of you and or staff, and just curiosity. Is the platted street, I'm looking at the property line, different than the physical street? Or is it just an error in the way the GIS makes it look?
That's just how the GIS appears on the map.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. To the speaker, if you could just hang tight, we may have some questions of you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this matter? All right. Seeing none, is there anyone online?
We're not aware of anyone.
All right. Thank you very much. And go ahead and then close the public hearing. This is in District 5, Member Ward. Turn it back to the board for discussion and or a motion.
I would be interested in hearing, Mr. Chairman, I would be interested in hearing board members' discussion. If there's any.
Thank you, Member Ward. Do we have a slide that shows a site plan? No, not this time. Yeah, I do agree. It's difficult without a site plan with dimensions to tell everything. That's probably the closest we have. It is an irregular shaped lot, and I'm inclined to support the variance. It's always better if more information is provided than not, but I do support it because of the awkward shape. That's my comment.
I'll add on. I also think that the septic requirement and setbacks are just adding another layer of complexity to try to fit everything on there. And those other examples that you showed, Daniel, were very helpful, but since those are more rectangular shapes, it seems like maybe they had an easier time fitting it on there.
Excellent points. Thank you. Member Clapp.
And also the land to the south is not to be developed, so it's not going to impede on any property owner that's south of this property. So this request for 10-foot change is not unreasonable in my mind.
Thank you. Also an excellent point. Member Ward?
Thank you, everybody, for your input. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve BA 2023-055, subject to the findings in number 16, section A.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval by Member Ward. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Member Clapp. Rosalie, if you please take roll call.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations to the applicant. Next item on the agenda, BA 2023-056, the Lutz property. Mr. Schlimm.
Thank you, Chairman Loper, members of the board. Case BA 2023-056 is a request to establish a lot width of 279 feet on the Lutz property where 300 feet is the minimum required. Next slide, please. So the property is located at 14403 North Vista del Oro in the Goldfield Phase 1 subdivision, about 1.5 miles north of the Beeline Highway in the Fort McDowell area. This is a rural 190 property on which the owners are proposing to build a new single-family residence. Next slide, please. So the property is entirely hillside. However, the proposed residence would disturb less than the maximum of 75,000 square feet allowed per section 1205 of the zoning ordinance, and all disturbance would be within the lot's buildable area except to accommodate driveway access through the front yard. As such, no variance to hillside regulations is required. Next slide, please. So the property forms a portion of Lot 14 of the Goldfield Phase 1 subdivision, which was platted in 1977. The property itself was created via lot split in the 1980s. As a result of this lot split, the property has a width of approximately 279 feet 8 inches, just over 20 feet short of the minimum required in the rural 190 zoning district. Next slide, please. So based upon what the applicant has submitted in the staff analysis, staff finds that the request fails to meet the statutory test for variance approval. Had due diligence been taken in the line of title regarding the requirements of the rural 190 zoning district prior to the splitting of the original parent parcel, the need for variance could have been avoided altogether. However, if the board finds that the applicant has proven entitlement to the variance, then the board must state on the record the basis for that determination with findings and conclusion in the motion to grant the relief sought. In such event, staff would offer the following to memorialize the variance approval. Item A, variance approval establishes a lot width of 279 feet for APN 219-16-028C. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schlimm. Great presentation. Are there any questions of staff? Any of the board members? I have two, and I think I know the answer to the first one. This doesn't qualify as a legal non-conforming with the action taken 2000 because there's no structure on it, no permit.
Chairman Loper, I'd say that's correct because it is currently a vacant parcel. There are no structures on site. I don't believe there have been any structures on site. And because the subdivision was platted in the 1970s and the lot created by a lot split in the 1980s, it isn't subject to the 1969 cutoff point for lot width.
And my second comment is, and it's not just you, it's a representation. I absolutely love the statement about the chain of title and the due diligence. I like that. I've noticed the last few have been in, and I think that's an excellent thing to reinforce to folks. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. is the applicant or applicant's representative. Sat through all this for an hour and 40 minutes. Come on up and provide your name and your reasons for the variance.
My name is Terry Lutz. I was a CPA for 35 years, and so these meetings, it's not bad. I've had some very good laughs today. Your job is, I must say, somewhat difficult at times, and other times very amusing and nice. Good. I'm glad. I'm retired. This is going to be our forever home. We've been looking at this place, this area, for a number of years because we have a place up in Forest Lakes that we purchased back in '08. Going back and forth, we saw the houses being built up here on the east side of 87. And towards retirement, we started looking and checked out several lots, and we fell on this one. It turns out next door neighbors have become friends. Virgil, he and Bob Dias, who both worked at Honeywell, worked with a very good friend of mine and client who's designed the house, Carl Puglisi. So we already have very good friends out there. It was very, very up, I guess you could say, we were upset when we got a substandard lot. I had no idea. Going back and looking at, talking to Randy Courtney, my realtor, who I've known for 35 years, et cetera. The title company, hands up, that they don't know anything about this, which I'm very surprised that this thing's been around for, I've got deeds here, that this was split in 1985. Because I've got the lot from the person had it in 82 when it was one lot and then two lots in 85. That gentleman has had it, the Giordano family, since 1985, and basically we bought it. We want to build a forever house on it and the whole bit. We've got a well in it. We've dug the well. We've got that all going, got test holes for septic, total site plan, everything done, ready to go, and then yikes. As far as trying to acquire other land next to it, we had looked at the gentleman's lot. It's a part of a 23-acre parcel. We couldn't even get an easement to get to a piece of property next door from him because there was a street there, but they had to put, who does own it, wound up putting in about $35,000 to build a road to the site because the guy wouldn't give me easement because it has a street, but that's a whole nother story. I just like to say, you know, we'd love to move forward, and for 18 feet, one other thing, the bottom of the lot is 296 feet. And I have no idea why it was done like this. And there is a cul-de-sac next to it. So really, there's not going to be anything built next to us because we actually have part of the corner, the street coming up the cul-de-sac as our property. If you were to actually look at kind of how it's drawn a little bit closer, magnification. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant at this time? All right, seeing none. Member Ward, are you still with us? We can't see you, but can you hear us? Must have lost her. All right, I've opened the public hearing. I don't have any speaker requests. There she is. Do you have any questions of the applicant? No?
I do not. And I can hear you.
All right, thank you. There's no one in attendance, right, to speak on this item. Do we have anyone online? No one online that wishes.
Yeah, there's no one online.
Hang tight. We may have some questions of you, but otherwise I'm closing the public hearing. And I'll turn it over to the board for discussion. A couple of things that for me, I go back to my comment from a couple of cases ago where it's an undersized lot that otherwise has no utility. And now that this has been publicly discussed, it would have to be disclosed in a sale. Who's going to buy it, knowing they couldn't pull a permit? He spent money on improvements. He's attempted to acquire additional land. And what I do like is that he didn't have to exceed his hillside to be able to come up with a buildable footprint when much of the property is subject to hillside. So I'm inclined to be in favor of it, but that's my comment. Member Clapp, go ahead.
Yeah, this is in my area. So, and I agree with what you just said, that this is a large hillside property. And the hillside disturbance is less than half of what's allowed on this property. So I think that's a big plus because there are so many hillside properties that they don't do that. They disturb the hillside to the point where
There's some big
it's really
places out
sad to see. So in this case, I think a variance of about 20 feet for a property of this size is a reasonable request, and it will not impact the surrounding properties. So for those reasons, I would want to approve and make a motion. I will make a motion to approve case number BA 2023-056.
We have a motion from Member Clapp for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Member Person. Rosalie?
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chair Person,
Yes.
Chairman Loper.
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. My wife is going to be so
Yeah.
happy.
And that's the key to happiness.
Yeah, and she will not
Yes.
have a house near a cemetery, I'll tell you that.
Um,
My dad lived across the street where, in his retirement years, he used to go back to Rockford, and she would be so good. It was always my fault.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy. Move on to the next item on the agenda, the last item on the agenda, TU 2023-069, the Neverez property. Turn it over to Mr. Slim again.
Thank you, Chairman Loper, members of the board. Case TU 2023-069 is a request for a temporary use permit for temporary housing on the Neverez property. Next slide, please. So the subject site is zoned Rural 43 and is located at 4416 West Sandy Road in the Levine area near Ivanhoe Street in the South Mountain Freeway. The property is approximately 1.2 acres and was recently vacant, although a building permit has been issued for a single-family residence and is currently active. While their permanent home is under construction, the property owners are requesting to use their RV as a temporary residence. Staff received one letter of opposition from a neighboring homeowner who alleges that the applicants have not been conforming with local codes. The neighbor references multiple shipping containers on site that have not been properly permitted or secured, the site's current lack of configuration for occupancy, the lack of a dust-free surface for parking, and a towable camper that has been parked on site for several months. The neighbor expresses concern that the applicants will not adhere to regulations for septic, electricity, and other requirements, and is therefore opposed to this temporary use permit. Nonetheless, staff believes that the applicant has satisfied the requirements of the zoning ordinance regarding temporary housing. Had no public opposition been received, this request would have been approved administratively. The most recent aerial images of the site released by the county assessor's office do not show any unpermitted structures, vehicles, or containers on site. And at this time, no complaints have been received for the property by code enforcement, and thus no code violations are active. If there is an unpermitted RV on site, approval of this TUP will resolve the issue, but any other unpermitted containers or structures on site, even if temporary, must either be removed or issued the proper building permits. With this, staff recommends approval of TU 2023-069, subject to the conditions of approval outlined in paragraph 13 of the staff report. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Great presentation. Are there any questions? Staff, go ahead, Member Person.
I think I already know the answer to this, but just to confirm, if this one person that submitted the letter of opposition has some problem and believes that there's a compliance issue, if this were to be granted, they can then contact the appropriate department at the county about said issue, right?
Vice Chairperson, yes, they could. However, we have not received any code
Understood.
violations on the
Okay.
property.
Thank you.
And following up on that, I mean, a shipping container for storage of materials while you're doing it, that's not uncommon. That's not an issue, correct? All right. Yeah, just having worked in home building, stuff that's left loose on a property tends to wander. So I don't fault them for that. I'm gonna open the public hearing. Is the applicant or representative available and here for presentation? Please come on up. Just give us your name and tell us about the temporary use permit that you're seeking and trying to build your home.
Hello, Chairman. My name is Melissa Navarez, and this is my husband, Blas Navarez.
All right, so we are building a house. We got a permit. We do have an RV on site. We requested a permit to live out of the RV. We do have containers. We're building a container home. Our foundation is ready. We just got to move to the next phase of getting the containers onto our foundation. As far as the opposing letter, we don't have anybody south of us. It's a vacant lot. Nobody north of us, vacant lots. There's a wall to the west, a brick wall. There is a house on the east, which is vacant, has been vacant. So as far as the opposing, we have been watering, keeping dust control low. Whatever work we have done, it's been minimal. We've never parked on the road easement. It's always been on the property. And then currently right now, we're looking to put gravel so we could park versus how it's indicated we're parking on the dirt. So.
And I would like to add as well, we are first-time owner builders. This will be our forever home too. It's a unique container home, 960 square footage of 3 40-foot containers. And we are abiding by all of the regulations and what has been brought to our attention. So we have already obtained our dust control permit, and that has been issued out to us in November. And as the containers, also those are building materials. And I think those were the arguments that we would like to just argue.
Anything else?
And the use for the temporary stay is within the RV, which is the whole purpose of the permit.
The request. Thank you very much. Any questions of the applicant? And I think you probably caught that staff is not substantiating the comments that were provided in opposition, that there's a different avenue that none of that's been reported. So it's just what a neighbor's saying. And so I'll leave it at that. It is a public hearing. Is there anyone else in the audience? There's no one else in the audience to speak on this, no other public anyway. Not that you guys aren't public, but you know what I mean. Do we have anyone online?
There's no one online, Chairman.
No one online to speak. Go ahead and close the public hearing if there's no further questions of the applicant. And this is in District 5. Ms. Ward, that's your district. I'm looking for you to make a comment, possibly a motion. I will say I heard comment after the last temporary use permit a hearing or two ago of a potential text amendment change that would make them issued in conjunction with a permit for the first year. I would support that. I'm not saying that's the case with this one, but the other one I think was a Rio Verde area, and the person there just objects to every temporary use permit, and it adds an unnecessary delay. So I don't know if that helps the cause or not, but that's certainly something I would be in support of. So anyway, with that, Member Ward or other board member, if you'd like to make a motion, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you, Chairman Loper. I am intrigued with the container home, and I anxiously await seeing it when it's done. And with that, I would motion that we approve item TU 2023069, subject to the conditions in paragraph 13.
We have a motion for approval by Member Ward. Is there a second? We have a second by Member Person. Rosalie, if you please take roll call.
Member Clapp,
Yes.
Member Ward,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson,
Yes.
Chairman Loper,
Yes.
Chairman, that's an approval by a vote of 4-0.
Congratulations and good luck. They do amazing things with container homes now.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy holidays. That's the last item on our agenda. Couple of things I just wanted real quick. One, and to Rachel, this is indispensable. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you started during COVID and it's evolved, but it's so helpful. I don't know that I could do it without it. So thank you again. And thank you to all of you for the great jobs that you do with your presentations, your preparation. Pass that on to Daniel and to Martin. They've left, gone back to actually do some work. And I appreciate it. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, be safe. Enjoy, I think MLK Days prior to our next hearing, but I wish you all the very best, appreciative of the work that you all do to do this. May seem so, but we really don't take it light. Thank you.